On this week's episode of TalkStone.
ZooX wins HCT Oslo, but Dan, I'm just saying, a familiar face is in the mix yet again.
The top 8 is set for the Hearthstone Global Games. Which teams made the cut?
And we don't have deck lists or groups set yet, but why not? Let's preview the HCT Fall Championship.
Everybody, get in here. Let's break down all the esports action. Welcome to TalkStone, your premier source for all things competitive Hearthstone news and analysis. I'm Frodan.
And I'm TJ.
That's right. And we're back for another episode on our regular cadence. Last time we were on TalkStone, we were wrapping up fall playoffs and kind of talking about the 16 players that qualified. So now we are going to preview the playoffs, or sorry, the championships, and talk about the tour stop that happened this past weekend, and then some other things like HGG, the well-played moment, and, of course, everyone's favorite meme history, TJ.
Yeah.
How have you been? How have you been? 2 weeks. I feel like it's been forever since I've seen
I
you.
know.
I got used to the weekly cadence.
Me too. Yeah, it seems like it's been a while since we've been back in the old studio. I'm good. My son he's growing up so fast, man. He can already smile, which is the coolest thing. He can smile, he can wiggle his body, and he can gurgle nonsense. So he's almost qualified to be a Hearthstone caster.
I was about to say the same thing. I'm like, are we looking for a 7th for the Fall Championships casting team?
Yeah, that's right. But it's been great. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing okay. I feel a little under the weather, but hopefully it passes for the Fall Championship. Still deciding my wardrobe to figure out what I want to bring. I don't know if I should keep it, a little bit more slick and classic, or do I want to go a little bit more off the wall again, TJ? What do you think? What do you think I should do?
I don't know, Dan. At this point, I just want you to be unpredictable.
I see myself in some of these images. I'm like, man, what was I thinking? Why did I not have someone stop me? TJ, that could have been you.
Well,
I need you to stop me for some of these terrible ideas and hairdos that I've had over the
I have the same reaction to myself, but on a much different level.
Like when
because
you get up in the morning, look at yourself in the mirror.
No. When I looked at myself from past broadcasts, because you sometimes just go like flashy and look at this. This was a ridiculous jacket, or this jacket was way too glittery. I'm like, wow, I didn't even try. My shirt's not tucked in. One of my sleeves is rolled up. One of them's not, and I wore the same red shirt for 8 broadcasts in a row. That was me back in the day. I've since diversified a little bit, but cool. Speaking of, I have no transition. Diversifying.
Yeah.
Let's talk about HCT Oslo. It actually just wrapped up a couple hours ago.
Yeah. At the time of this recording, HCT Oslo has just concluded. ZooX was able to take it. ZooX from Spain, I believe. And then in second place, we have a familiar face in Just Saying, another finals appearance. And forget me if I am wrong on this, but I think that means Sayan's been in as many tour stop finals as Hunter Ace this year, as of HCT Oslo.
And he also he even tweeted about this a little bit. He won 32 rounds of Hearthstone
in a row.
Yeah,
at tournaments.
Yeah. Now that doesn't include HCG because that's team play.
Right.
And it doesn't include in the WSG Grand Finals. He came from the winners bracket and lost the first best of 5. Because it was a true grand final, so he had a set advantage. But then came back and won. So if you count that as just one round, he won the thing anyway. So there's a couple of caveats to that. But regardless,
that's extremely impressive.
I didn't think we'd see anybody top Hunter Ace's performance from like the first 2/3 of the year or half of the year, the HCT year.
And now we're watching it unfold for the second time.
Yeah.
You can also make a justification for a few other players too, like who have been equally as impressive, but it's just we want to call out people who are able to defy the odds. Just Saying, another fantastic performance, getting second, and he's also kind of doing it with his own thing. Kind of like playing just aggro lineups while everyone's kind of talking about Quest Rogue, everyone's talking about Malagos, or just like the state of Druid in general. He didn't change anything magically. People wonder if he caught on to a specific meta formula. Like, okay, is this like the meta where he figured out something and people didn't, or like did he change something with his play style? Did he like have some level up through the hyperbolic time chamber, if you will? I'm trying to play a little bit into his name here. No, the answer is he just kept doing his thing and trying to be as consistent as possible and find the results show up. I think this is a really powerful lesson for a lot of people who might think that they have to do something crazy to reinvent the wheel. Like, okay, you know, I'm not having success at playoffs, I'm not having success in tournament, or even just ladder. I need to do something super off the wall crazy. I'm going to play like odd, Baku Warlock and try to do something stupid.
That's what you did.
That's what I did. You don't need to do that because, first of all, that was really inefficient. Like, I wasted so many hours climbing the legend with that deck.
Yeah.
Even though I did climb the legend, so it was legend viable. But at the same time, it's like, it's just really cool to see someone's hard work pay off. And at the same time, you look at that in contrast to, say, Muzzy. Muzzy tweeted out earlier today, too, that he's not getting any results that he wanted. He didn't get ladder finishes. He hasn't been doing well at tour stops. And he kind of, like, just petered out of playoffs. So he's, like, missing out on a lot of these stuff. And then, of course, Saint's pulling much farther ahead in points now. So Muzzy went through a period where he was consistent, but now he's kind of going through a little bit of a slump by his standards. And I think that just it's a really hard thing to accept for some players, but those things come with the ebb and flow of Hearthstone and card games.
Yeah. That's a lot of great points, and I think that the biggest thing I've taken away from this whole situation happening is that people will rally behind competitive players that have success. Just saying, I mean, he's been reasonably popular. I think the coolest thing that he's done over the past couple of years is Watchstone. At the end of each ladder month, once he had secured his finish, he would get in a call with a bunch of competitive players, and they would, just chat, have fun, and spectate players that were on the bubble of getting those finishes, and that was really cool. But
it's kind of like Emperor of Rome watching the gladiators fight in the arena, type thing, where it's like, we have our own. We're all like on the mighty throne.
I secured my top 10 finish on Europe. Let's go watch
and watch other people do it out and be tortured by.
But outside of like that niche of the top level competitive community, we hyped him up as Cash for so long, but he didn't have those finishes. So viewers that tuned in that were like, this Just Saying guy, the casters always say he's one of the best players in the world, but he's never won anything. Why should I support this guy? And he, another tweet from Just Saying after he lost his finals, he said it's been the best month of his life because of how much support he's been getting. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't stream, he doesn't post meme decks.
Not as much. He used to be very much into that.
He's
first starting to get his name out there.
He's not a career streamer, I guess, is the big thing to say there. And I just think it's really cool that he's getting all this support, and now we're going to see him at the championship coming up, and I'm just really happy to see that after 3 years of him working really hard and being one of the top players, that all that work is being rewarded with not only tournament finishes but also a lot of support behind the competitive community and also the casual competitive community, call it, the players that tune into tournaments but may not necessarily follow the scene as much. But
Top 8 had a few other names that you might have seen a lot. Of course, Zuhex was able to take the win. Very solid play all throughout. I feel like HCT Oslo in general just had a lot of solid moments. There wasn't as much catastrophic chaos that happened compared to, say, in the playoffs. The playoffs, we had a lot of eyebrow-raising moments where what is happening here? I think it was highlighted by that insane language hacker versus Conrad, Shaman versus Hunter game that was just what is happening? And there's a lot of mistakes, a lot of regrets, a lot of funny, hilarious moments, and TJ, of course, giving us one of the most iconic phases of playoffs that season. Not much of that at the HCT Oslo, just solid, consistent play. I think maybe some decks are rising in stock. I think aggro, tempo mage, secret mage, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, well, it was last year's standing, so we saw less cohesive lineups because last year's standing is a little bit interesting, and some players love it. Some players prefer Conquest. You don't see target Quest Rogue. You see lineups with Just Sayins, who had Zoo Warlock. He had the aggro lineup with Odd Rogue, Zoo Warlock, and Aggro Mage, but then he had a Malagos Druid because just a strong deck, and it has a lot of those counters, right? So he needed good decks to lead off in a series with, and he also needed counter decks, and a lot of the counter decks right now just happen to be, I'm going to counter Quest Rogue, or I'm going to ban it, because you need to have sort of a few decks in your arsenal that can beat it, and he did. So I liked his lineup, whereas Zuex had the Odd Warrior, which we saw a lot of because it's a target lineup, a target deck against aggro decks. Even Warlock, the Togwaggle Druid, and Quest Rogue.
Quest Rogue, of course, a pretty hot contentious deck right now because of how strong it is, and I think that's why Aggro Mage might be an interesting choice. And I think a lot of people are having success on ladder. Just want to call out former world champion Ostkaka.
Yeah.
Is kind of getting back in the groove for Hearthstone. He's finished with a top 10 ladder placing, and he was getting there with Aggro Mage. I think he finished it off with Druid.
Yeah.
But just like really cool to see people come back, you know, and show that they still got it. Like, people might think that like guys who end up staying around for a long time and dropping off their tournament results aren't like worth cutting. Like they basically aren't competitive anymore. They're not like as good as they once were. They lost a step. But Firebat competing in playoffs. Ostkaka coming in and doing ladder. And guess who's also starting to climb back in Hearthstone?
Forsen?
We could not be as lucky or never lucky as that. Pavel is also starting to climb ladder a lot and trying to get his finishes as well. So we have our world champions each starting to make their conquest back, if you will, in Hearthstone, which is really cool to see.
I'm waiting for Artosis. That's what I'm waiting for.
The original OG. You're spoiling meme history here, TJ. We have our first 3-star master, TJ.
Yes, we do.
It is not even Norway himself.
Not even related to HCT Oslo because...
It is. He's Norwegian, and he does play Hearthstone.
He does play Hearthstone.
And he is 9 feet tall.
Dan, they said it couldn't be done.
Well, they said that at most it'd be like 3 to 4 people, but I think what's the most striking thing about Hunter Race's consistency is the fact that it seems fairly effortless to him to have these results. Like, you hear a lot of players talk about their journey, and some of them are, you know, positive-ish. But a lot of them are just kind of talking about the struggle, you know? It's difficult. That's part of what makes Hearthstone a really compelling game for some of these players, because it feels like really difficult for them to overcome the odds, and when they do, it becomes something worth sharing. So you hear on social media, on forums, on their streams, you hear players talk about how difficult it is. But every season, without fail, Hunter Race posts a top 10 finish, and he always posts the deck he did it with, and he's like, okay, now it's your guys' turn to try and follow me. He's such a pioneer and trailblazer that it's so cool to see him just come out of the woodworks at the end of each month and just show you, like, yeah, I just got my top 10. Just want to point it out. Again, I got it.
Yeah.
Easy. And it's like some other players are like, man, I just really wanted my top 100. I just really wanted to get, like, a top 50. And it's like, man, I feel really bad because, like, players like Hunter Race just easily get the top 25. And it's not just him. It's like F2K guys are getting it too. Complexity guys are getting it too. Tempo Storm players, except for Muzzy this month, usually get it every month. It's just, it's so crazy how the elite make it seem so easy. And it just makes me wonder what they know and what we're missing from the rest of them. What do they know? What do these group of elite Hearthstone competitive players know that we don't know about the game? They're sharing their deck lists. They stream sometimes. We tap into the mindset. Heck, they even talk about the mistakes they made, and yet how are we not able to replicate?
I'm the wrong person to ask, Dan. I'm the wrong person to ask that question. If I knew, I'd be world champion. Because my work ethic is unmatched.
You're a father now, so yes, your work ethic is unmatched, at least out of all the rest of the casters and players, because I don't know how many other players actually have young babies that they have to nurse back at home.
Congratulations to Hunter Race again, by the way.
Congratulations, Hunter Race, and Sand, and Zuhex, and everyone else.
I'm going to ground us for real. There's one deck that I wanted to highlight that stood out to me from the top 8 at Oslo. Hypno, who made it into the top 8, had an even Paladin in his lineup.
Yeah, and I saw Muzzy streaming a lot of even Paladin.
Is this the meta breaker?
Well, Muzzy was losing a lot even Paladin when I was watching him stream, and he didn't get a top 200 finish. So I think
this deck is not like it's kind of similar to the old type of even Paladin where you just kind of overwhelm them and then you Quality Avenging Wrath and push a bunch of damage. He had Crystal Smith Kangor, just a 2-drop
It's a new legendary scientist from Boomsday Project where it doubles your healing.
And it has Lifesteal and Divine Shield, so you can make things happen with that. Argent Protectors to solidify board. He had a Sound the Bells, a Chillblade Champion, only one Serenade Chain Gang, which traditionally was such a big card because it lets you get on board fast, protected your small stuff, and also great for Valinir. Tyrion, which wasn't even in most.
I've heard of that guy before.
Yeah. Used to be the iconic Paladin card. Wasn't even in a lot of even Paladin lists if we think back to earlier this year in the summer playoffs. Spikered Steed, which surprisingly wasn't even a card that a lot of players put in even Paladin.
Still fantastic.
Yeah, so it just was like a more control-y style. He had Wild Pyromancer, which was included mostly because of Call to Arms, because you needed more 2-drops to guarantee that. But just a really cool deck. It was fast enough against like even Warlocks and Quest Rogue, but it was just slow enough to be able to win, you know, some of the more controlling matchups. Heavy hitting enough to have game against Odd Warrior. So I really enjoyed the deck, and a top 8 finish was pretty good. I wanted to play this deck as soon as I saw it.
Yeah, I've played just mid-range Paladin in general. Even Paladin's is pretty much a very defined mid-range deck.
Yeah,
and I put in Lanessa Sunsorrow, and that card in general is like pretty strong because when they see Spikered Steed or Blessing of Kings or anything with Divine Shield, they kind of want to silence that and get back, especially if you have like Valinir stuff.
Yeah.
So let's say that you play Valinir, your minion, they silence it. Oh, that stinks. But then Lanessa Sunsorrow comes down, they're like, wow, I cannot deal with this 9/17 minion that summons 2/6s, you know, that comes out. It's pretty nutty with some of the stuff that can happen with Lanessa. So if you guys really want something a little bit different, and I know this is not the show where we recommend deck lists per se, but even Paladin or just mid-range Paladin in general is a deck that could be slept on a little bit, that has decent matchup spread, that's not the worst deck that has polarized matchups that you auto lose.
Yeah. There's some mech stuff that you can do.
Yeah, there's mech even Paladin, there's mech mid-range Paladin,
yeah.
There's just straight up like control.
Yeah, straight up Paladin. The mid-range with Lanessa, like you talked about, not odd or even. There's a lot of cool things you can do. So shout out to Hypno for trying to break the meta a little bit. And
be bold.
Be bold. That should be our tagline for TalkStone.
Being bold will get you attention in Hearthstone.
It will.
If you're not going to completely break the meta with APAC, Dakarivia stuff, then you at least should be the one being consistent with your results, like Saiyan and... Well, Hunter Ace also does kind of pilot his own ways.
Yeah, but he takes meta decks, he just fits them into lineups or has some tech cards.
Sort of. He does really unusual stuff. Remember in HCT Soul, he just brought classic mid-range Hunter.
Yeah, he did.
And that was something that was like very against the mold.
Yeah.
And he also brings weird lineups that are like... that shouldn't work in theory.
Yeah.
And so Hunter Ace definitely is a guy that innovates, even if ever so slightly. Like so I definitely respect him in that category. And despite all of this, despite Hunter Ace's Just Saying's consistency, the Hypno Paladin deck, that's not the well-played moment, TJ.
No, it's not.
You know what is the well-played moment?
I do.
Yes, because you picked it.
So what you're basically trying to get at is now it's time for the well-played moment. Right. Well-played moment comes from day 2 of HCT Oslo, which was Kalax versus Impy. This is a pretty cool play. We talked about it earlier. There was nothing too too crazy fancy going on from.
The well-played moment doesn't have to be fancy.
No, it just has to
be well played.
That's right.
That's the only criteria.
That's right. And this was the very last game of the day for day number 2.
I believe Kalax was up 2-0.
He was up 2-0, and he was playing his Death Rattle Hunter, which he had already won 2 games with last year standing, versus the Token Druid from Impy. And Impy was just trying to put pressure on. And this is a pretty good matchup for Token Druid traditionally because of the fact that Hunters, outside of a few key cards, don't have ways to deal with wide boards. They have big stuff that wants to just attack you. And when you're looking at like Giggling Inventor that's buffed up, or like a board full of Spreading Plagues that are threatening Savage or Branching Paths, you get like a Savannah Highmane and then a Witchwood Grizzly attack, and you're like, okay, go. And Impy was just putting on a lot of pressure, and Kalax had basically 1 turn left, and he ended up having to find a creative lethal with his Kathrina on board by double flanking striking his own Kathrina to summon King Curse from his deck for exact lethal. And
that was buffed, by the way, from Kells.
That was buffed, by the way.
He needed exact damage, exact mana to flanking strike twice in hero power, so that's 10 mana, kill off his own Kathrina, and summon a 9/9 charge King Crush that would deal 11 damage exactly with the hero power.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of like understanding something that's not intuitive. First of all, Flanking Strike is one of the best cards in Hunter as a class, and you usually want to use it on an opponent's minions. So using on your own minions already like unusual. At best, sometimes you see people Flanking Strike their own Devilsaur Egg to get a 5/5. But you had to do it. And then also because he had knowledge of the interaction with the way minions fill up the board. So when you have 7 minions and you flanking strike, you're not going to summon a wolf, and you're not going to, you have to deal with that ramification if you have too full of a board. But he also knew that by killing his Katharina, that the wolf would summon before the Katharina would die, so he fills up his own board to prevent that possibility, and that leaves one last space open. It's not completely mind-shattering if you're like an experienced Hearthstone player, but this is like an unintuitive play.
But even the casters were talking about, like, do you know how flanking strike works? Like, what order does the...
Yeah, what order does it summon in?
Yeah, so it's just a good play of, one, recognizing a situation that not a lot of players would recognize in flanking strike. The traditional use is just to kill an opponent's minion for tempo, right? You're dealing damage and summoning a wolf. That sounds really good. So now a lot of times do you, like, think about it in that way. And he was at 1 health. His opponent, Impy, had ultimate infestation in the face.
Right.
And he did not have many cards left. He was pretty confident he was dead next turn to the other ultimate infestation, which was what Impy was setting up for. So it's pretty cool that he kept calm, realized that I'm dead, I need to find a way to kill him. Mm-hmm. And pulling King Crush plus the hero power for exact lethal was the way to kill him. And it's just a situation that when the pressure's on that late in the tournament, finding those plays is not that easy. And, Dan, that's why this moment was well played.
All right, so congrats to Kallax and Impy. Kallax, by the way, a player that's coming up on my radar.
Oh, yeah.
The French community in general is very underrated, but this guy's been having consistent results this year so far. So be on the watch out specifically for him from the French community. Him and Odemian have been some of the most consistent players from there. Am I missing someone from France? Not necessarily. I mean, a lot of them have had pretty notable results, but like those I think have been a little bit more standout than a couple of others. So let's talk about HGG for a sec here.
Yeah.
So we have our top 8 that are going to BlizzCon. Spain, Brazil, Bulgaria, Hong Kong, New Zealand, Chinese Taipei, China, and Norway. So, you got a lot of your players that you've seen before through, like Tom 60229 coming back to BlizzCon again, potentially becoming some kind of world champion again. That'd be sick. China, just in general, like, they're a country that has their own region in Hearthstone sending to the championships. Never really had, like, the definitive win globally, so this could be big for them. You have Norway with Hunter Ace, the world's point leader in Hearthstone Championship Tour. And you have Brazil with, like, Race leading the way that you've been seeing. And then a couple of the underdogs, like Hong Kong, New Zealand, Bulgaria, and Spain to a certain extent as well. So this is a very good mix of countries. Would have loved, personally, to see the USA boys pull it out in top 16 and top 8. But it's okay. They got so much money from the HGG tier. I think they're good. So one of the things on my notes, TJ, is the biggest surprise. The biggest surprise for me, TJ, is how much the community is rallying behind HGG cheer. I want to take a second to recognize this.
Yeah.
Because HCT Cheer, for people who do not know, is a compendium program that partners with the players and Blizzard. So when you use Twitch bits to cheer, part of that money goes to Blizzard and part of that money goes to the players directly. And of course, part of the alert of HCT Cheer is that if we collectively have enough bits, we all unlock global rewards.
Yes.
And so basically, you get the same money that you'd be getting for packs. So if you pay like the equivalent of $20, you get like these amount of packs. That's how much you would get in Hearthstone anyways, but you get all these other added bonuses. So because we're starting to, I'm getting all these packs on my account now, but at the same time, it's really cool that some of these players are earning additional money. That's a great way for these players to earn extra income for something that was not necessarily tied into prize pool. HGG, when it first started, was more about prestige, participation, representation, diversity, and globalization. And now it's also coming to a point where some people really want to be able to be part of it so that they can earn income playing Hearthstone. And it's really awesome for some of these other developing countries in Hearthstone. Like, when I say developing, I mean, like, they're not well established, like Ukraine, USA, Russia, etc. Bulgaria, for example, like, we can't name too many players from Bulgaria, and yet if they can get a lot more cheering bits, they can, call themselves professional Hearthstone players for being able to make a decent amount of change.
Yeah, it was also just a good way for even viewers to show their support for their teams, right? The cheer motes were pretty cool. They had that little animated flag. Also, there was a bunch of unique emotes. My favorite being the concede emote.
Oh yeah, I use that emote a lot when I am in my favorite streamers' chats.
Yeah, and There was, I can't remember if this actually went through, but the Concedium was like split into 2 parts.
Yeah, so you have to type 2 things in chat to get, because it's half the bar.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
My idea at the beginning was to just absolutely torture people and put the one part of the concede button at the very lowest level of cheer and one part of the concede button at the very highest part of the cheer. So that way, I don't know, that was just a funny idea. There's some pretty cool emotes as well.
And then, of course, the exclusive card back. And it sounds like we're just kind of like selling out right now with like, whoa, participate HCG cheer. The reason why I think this is so astounding is because on the first day, it was 5 million bits being raised.
Yeah.
And part of what makes it so crazy to me is that it was all happening in offline chat, TJ. HCG was not broadcasting. And
it was weird.
People were like in the offline chat chilling, cheering, and then like talking about how awesome it was that people were cheering.
Yeah.
And people were like helping each other, like how many bits do I need to get in order to get these rewards? And people were just sticking around. I was chilling there with Tyler from Complexity.
With no broadcast being shown.
We were just like chilling there, me and Tyler, and we were like talking about the Fall Championship, like hanging out, and then other people were just like cheering in the meantime, and they're like asking us questions. It kind of just turned into like an impromptu IRC chat, which was really cool. It takes me back to like the early internet days. And people started to talk about like what decks they were playing and whatnot. It just became like a social community hub. And that was really cool to see. And then now, fast forward a week and a half later or so, we have over 20 million raised. That's so cool. And I think that's a really good sign, by the way, that we should engage competitive community a little bit more in that area. That's just my personal opinion, of course. It's not reflective of what TJ thinks.
Yeah.
But anyways, more back onto HGG. TJ, is there any player that stood out to you or any specific team?
Well, it's kind of tough to say because I think the biggest thing is we saw the top 16 was group stages. It was split into a dual tournament, double elimination group stages.
Yep, similar playoffs.
So we didn't see a lot of these teams get to just face off against each other. So that's why I'm excited for BlizzCon because we have the obvious front runners, right? Norway with Hunter Ace, China, who's just a harsh. If you look at that players on that team, you recognize them even if you're not from China because you've seen those players in the global circuit. Chinese Taipei has Tom, so front runner, and probably Brazil. And then it's just like 4 kind of newcomer countries: New Zealand, Hong Kong, Bulgaria, and Spain. Which you'd be hard pressed to find people that can name like 4 competitive players from those countries if you've been watching, global Hearthstone for the past 3 years. So it's kind of this divide, and I'm excited to see because the format's really unique and hard to figure out from a certain standpoint. Because you kind of blind pick these decks, and you have to have decks that are well versed. You see a lot of diversity with decks because people try and break that meta. They're trying to say, well, our decision with decks didn't really matter last week, so let's just try and bring something different and see if we can line up our decks well the following week. So it's going to be really cool to see, not only because we see decks that we don't normally see in tournaments, but also because it's BlizzCon. Like, there's so much hype around it regardless. So imagine, HCG with a lot more prize money on the line with these players that are representing countries. And BlizzCon's pretty global. You see people attending BlizzCon that are from all different countries. So I think it's going to be hype.
It will be. There's going to be less dungeon runs on the big stage for BlizzCon, but it's going to be a lot more intense Hearthstone action. And, of course, we're going to get some of those of your favorite HCG casters out to BlizzCon as well. Have there been any disappointments? Wow, this is pretty new. We don't usually talk about disappointments, DJ, but it's on my notes.
The United States of America.
I don't think they're disappointed at all with their bank accounts.
So they started 0-2. So from the get-go, they probably lost hope a little bit along the way. They won out their last 4 matches of Swiss, barely made it into that top 16 group cut. And, and they had a couple close matches. I'm only disappointed because I'm friends with and I like a lot of the players on that team. It was cool because they were getting a lot of the HGG cheer support. Like, if you look at the list, like, United States is so much further ahead of everybody else. I just wanted to see them compete because I just like them.
HGG, make sure to tune in at BlizzCon. It's going to be really fun. The top 8 is a great diversity of countries. We have one quote hometown country for the Americas representing in Brazil, but lots of Asia and Europe representation. It's going to be a really good time, a cool format. favorite casters and talent, and some of your players. And now it's time for the promo for HCT.
Welcome back to the Hearthstone Global Games. New for the second season, we're proud to introduce HGG Cheer. Cheering is a way to show support for players and regions while boosting your presence in chat using bits, a virtual good you can buy on Twitch. Along the way, you'll unlock Hearthstone packs, new Twitch emotes, and a unique card back, while the players earn a share of the revenue. We'll see you in the tavern.
Welcome back to TalkStone, everybody. Again, HCT Cheer is a fantastic program. We've been beating this poor horse to death 10 times over. So let's move on to the Fall Championship, shall we? This one will be quick and a little bit dirty, TJ. Let's go through each of the regions and talk about what's the player to watch. Because we don't have decks. We don't have the lineups. Nope. We don't have the groups. So, to be honest, talking about preview and stuff could be a little bit dishonest with how things will shape up because anything can change based off those.
We do have the casters.
Do we, though?
Yeah, it's all of us. All the HT guys.
Oliver.
Oliver's not going to make it, unfortunately. But let's just run through the list of players, and we'll say who you guys should look out for. There's kind of a reason to tune in. We'll start with the one true region, and that's the Americas. 4 representatives, Just Saying, Bloody Face, Language Hacker, and Tincho.
Okay.
I'm going to go against the grain here. Just Saying is the one that kind of stands out to me as the player to tune in for, but he's won enough. I want people to tune in for Bloody Face.
Cool. Why?
Bloody Face he just seems like a meticulous player. Also, he just seems like a cool guy, a cool down-to-earth guy.
Yeah, despite his username that might intimidate you otherwise.
Yeah. He seems wholesome, right, as a player. And he really impressed me with this play, and his interview was just I was just like, wow, I could hang out with this guy. And that's why I want to see him do well. I want players like that to go far. So Bloody Face also very meticulous kind of control style player, at least from what we've seen of him. Mm-hmm. He could completely change it up because he seems well versed. Has a history of card games, played Magic for a long time. So I also just wanted to be bold because that's what TalkStone's about.
Be bold.
Be bold.
Yeah. Be Bloody Face.
Yeah. Be bold. Yeah.
Be bloody.
It's an anagram.
Be Bloody Face.
It's an anagram if you don't think about it.
That's true. You can't spell Bloody Face without bold.
Yeah.
All right. Bloody Face also recently quit his job to pursue Hearthstone full time. He started streaming.
Now that's bold.
That is the boldest of all bold calls, and it paid off. And we kind of talked about it in the previous episode. This doesn't actually happen very often, so don't think about quitting your job to pursue competitive Hearthstone. Unless a few dominoes have already fallen in place. You're already finishing high all the time. You're already doing well in tournaments. You're already getting offers from people, and you're already going to champion. Things like that is why people quit. Bloodyface decided to take a limb and try to pursue it a little bit full time first, and then end up paying off. So I like that. I'll just go with a different player, slightly against the green as well. And I want to point out Language Hacker. I think. Players like him go under the radar a lot, but he's been fairly consistent. And one thing that stands out to me is that he doesn't attend many events, but the events that he does attend, he does fairly well in.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good sign of a lot of players that have similar pedigrees. That was the same thing about Muzzy for a long time. He didn't appear in many events, but the ones he did pretty well in. Hunter Race as well. Hunter Race was not in many events in 2017 and before that, but the ones that he was participating in, he did really well in.
Yeah,
so,
like the New Year's Esports Arena Rat Race.
Yeah.
He did really well in that event.
And I can't remember too many events before that he participated in. A few of them, for sure. And the same applied for other players who popped on the scene, like Firebat and Zalay and some of the other great players.
Yeah.
So I have high hopes that he'll be performing really well, and I think he was really solid. And I think he's a player to watch out for sure. And I also think Canada is just a very criminally underrated country in Hearthstone.
Yeah. He's also very composed. Seems like a very composed player, which could be good if he's playing in front of a pretty big crowd.
Playing against Conrad.
Yeah, then not so much. But let's run down Europe. It's Sinto, Moyen, Renmin, and Hatul.
The player to watch is definitely Hatul. He is just fun personality. He brings wacky ideas to the table with decks and tech card choices. Israel in general is just not a country I think about when it comes to Hearthstone outside of Glacier, and so I think he can really represent the average Joe very well.
Yeah. But I think if I had to give a reason to tune in, it would probably be Sinto.
Oh, yeah. Sinto is just so fun to watch.
Yeah.
Many reasons.
I don't know. He's just one of the most expressive players. He's just funny. Like, even if you're just hanging out with him, especially his personality, and like when you just hang out with him, is so different from his personality. Like when you watch him play Hearthstone, you think he's like this bad boy who just gets mad and pissed and throws things and slams his headset.
Yeah, he's actually a very polite person.
Yeah,
which is something that I wasn't expecting, because you tend to like have an expectation that he'd be a little bit more angry or easily tilted and whatnot. But like, hanging out with him at the IOC for extended periods of time, he's just like, yeah, I'll wait in the lobby for you for like an hour because I'm just gonna wait for you. I'm like, you don't have to, man. He's like, no, I will. He just stares at me as I walk away, and I'm okay.
What a bro.
Yeah, like just because he didn't want us to like be alone, and he's a really cool guy. So I definitely think Sinto is a player to watch for sure.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I think he might be one of the most technically skilled players in this batch of field.
Yeah, a lot of experience too. Making to pretty far in the World Championship last year.
Assuming he's able to log off Azeroth.
Yeah.
Spend some time in the chat. Well, I guess you could play Hearthstone in.
Well,
is that what he's actually doing? Is Sinto conning us by like pretending he's playing WoW this entire time, but he's actually playing Hearthstone in WoW? Probably not. But it's definitely a head scratch. That would be the next level meta thing.
What's funny though is that there's so many players, even from other games, that have been tweeting stuff. Doublelift, he just qualified for the World Championship for League of Legends. After every single match, or after his round of scrims or whatever he's doing, he always goes, scrims over the day. Time to go back to defending Azeroth. So it just reminds me of that. Yeah, you can keep up with a top-level competitive career. Yeah. So
yes, you are allowed to play other games if you are a pro gamer. Just want to point that out.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see. Sinto's fun to watch.
Asia Pacific. Sorry to interrupt you.
How dare you? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
It is TalkStone, not Talk Overstone. Asia Pacific, the player I gotta watch, man, is my main homie, Doc Rivius. I love Doc Rivius' personality so much. After meeting him in HCT Korea, I went out on the town with him to have some food and drinks. Went karaokeing with him. We're practically blood brothers at this point. I'm pretty sure we did a sacrificial ritual sometime at like 4 a.m. on the streets of Seoul, around a burning trash can. But it was really, really fun to hang out with him. So I love his personality, and it shows in his play. His lineup is also just wacky.
Yeah.
And he's also really expressive. APAC, one of the most... So this is something that I talk about once in a while, but one of the most interesting things about Hearthstone is, one, the lack of Asian dominance compared to other esports like StarCraft and all these other games. So there's one. But the second thing is, even in those games where the Asian players, like from China, Korea, etc., are dominant, they're also fairly emotionless. Like, they're not, like, expressive and whatnot. In Hearthstone, it's like the complete opposite. They're so expressive. They're some of the most fun players to watch, because APAC players do not hide their emotions. They do not keep it up their sleeve whatsoever. They wear it on their chest. It's awesome to watch. And Doc Rivius is one of the most expressive players. I love it.
And
I love it so much.
He is joined by Akamaker and Tyler, two also very expressive players.
Aku is also top tier in terms of it.
He is, but my player to watch for Asia Pacific is my homie, Blood Trail.
Oh, yes! Blood Trail is also... Okay, go on.
Blood Trail, I'll be frank, he crashed and burned at the Summer Championship. He had a series where he put on sunglasses after being the least expressive person we've seen, and just kind of... he blew it.
Yeah, it was a house of cards when it came down to that sunglasses thing. Because when he first put on the sunglasses, he thought like, oh, he's like swagging out like Pavel, composed, just gonna chill. It turns out it was just hiding every bit of his nervousness on stage, where he just kind of messed up repeatedly with the Keleseth plays.
But he made it back, and he has shown time and time again that he's a fantastic player. And he's shown it by qualifying for back-to-back championships.
I love it.
And so I'm just curious. He's a very reserved guy. When we interviewed him at Summer Championships, he probably we had a translator for him, but he probably said 3 sentences total in a 45-minute long interview. So
yes, and they were all the same sentences.
They were, pretty much.
Yes, no, and maybe.
Yeah. But I'm curious to see, just how prepared he's going to be after being on the stage once before. Is he going to be able to get over those nerves that he obviously showed? I mean, there's no real other explanation for it. and I'm curious to talk to him and ask him his thoughts and differences. So that's my player to watch for.
Cool. And then for China, we have 3 new players in Trunks, so I'm just going to go with the easier one here, unfortunately. I'm going to leave you hanging. I'm going to pick Trunks because he's a player that has a lot left to be desired from 2017, made it to a championship, made a lot of actually championship appearances, and this guy is very consistent in China. He's also like married and fairly popular. I think he actually recently had a child too, like a year or 2 ago. Cool dude, very wholesome, but not really putting on the performance that China really wants.
Yeah.
And so I think he carries most of the burdens for the Chinese fan base.
Yeah, he's joined by Lion King, Island Cat, and Tsai Mao. Tsai Meow?
Close enough.
Yeah.
I'm not offended.
Thanks, Dan. And I want to see Island Cat.
I do too.
For one reason only. So I'm part of the player Discord. So we use that to organize like player travel and like administrative things within internally in Blizzard. Island Cat joined the player Discord and he just typed out, "Hi, I'm Island Cat."
Awesome.
And that was the only thing he said in English. "Hi, I'm Island Cat." And he said it twice because nobody responded to the first time he said it. So then a couple hours later, he just copy-pasted it and said it again. "Hi, I'm Island Cat," until someone said, "Hey, Island Cat," and then he didn't say it again. I just thought that was like the funniest thing. He
hasn't said anything since.
He hasn't said anything since. He was just going to spam, "Hi, I'm Island Cat," until someone like acknowledged that he was there and that he was Island Cat.
So we should tell that story again for the Fall Championship. But then just that's his answer to every interview ever. So it'd be like, "What do you think of your opponents?" And he just thinks, "Hi, I'm Island Cat." Just repeat it over and over.
I just thought it was so like, I don't know, funny.
It's very
endearing. Yeah,
because he's trying very hard to connect to us English speakers.
Yeah, and we have translators in there. We've had the same Chinese translator, Sophie, for the past couple years, who has done a great job of kind of getting the feelings of the Chinese players and translating that to us. Who it can be tough to communicate with them sometimes. So I really appreciated that he was willing to just try.
He was being bold.
He was be bold.
Be bold. That being said, I think you guys are going to really enjoy the Fall Championships, all things considering. TJ and I will be there, Admirable, Kibler, Sotto, and Raven.
And Cora. Cora as well.
Stage hosting?
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's great.
So that starts October 11th, runs to the 14th. It'll be open to audiences on October 13th and 14th. So you can buy tickets to come in and actually watch the broadcast live if you're going to be in the area or want to come to the area October 13th and 14th, which is the Saturday, Sunday. And no player will be eliminated until that point. So no matter what, if you come and watch the broadcast, you'll be at least be able to see your favorite player play once if they're like Dog and get eliminated 0-2.
Too soon.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying. 13th was the day that spectators can come.
Yes. We have one more segment, and we'll make this one quick so our producer doesn't kill us. Meme history. Because now it's time for meme history.
This week's meme history
is in honor of a big event happening. I will say in honor of BlizzCon, HCG coming up at BlizzCon pretty soon.
Not that we'll have any episodes.
I'm just trying to connect this somehow. Is Artosis trying to execute his own Sylvanas to steal a Cairn?
I'll tell this story from my perspective because I watched it happen twice. Once when it was recording and once it was live broadcast. When I first was playing Hearthstone, and I was working for a news TV production company called ESGN. It was a startup out in Germany, and we really liked Hearthstone. We wanted to do broadcasts around it. So we created a series called Fight Night, and it's a series of team show matches that really basically started the hype train for Hearthstone tournaments outside BlizzCon. BlizzCon was a success. We all saw Artosis become the first world champion over Crip in the finals. And then, a couple months passed by. We had some, online stuff here and there. But Fight Night was, the first full-fledged production for it. And we flew in some of the most popular players at the time that were unknown. And then Artosis was the captain of that team. And he was more of a figurehead because he was splitting his time between StarCraft and Hearthstone, and rightfully so. Love Dan and Nick and Dan's work over at GSL. You should definitely tune in. StarCraft 2's never been better, in my opinion. But he had a little bit of a brain fart while he realized that Sylvanas, one of the most powerful death rattles in Hearthstone history, stealing a random minion from your opponent. He thought that he could execute his own Sylvanas. Now, here's the story, TJ. I saw this happen. We all laughed like crazy in the background. His team gave him nonstop trash talk after that happened. I hyped this game up a lot on the forum, the Team Liquid forums. Everyone was like, when's the next episode airing? I'm like, you don't want to miss this. This is going to be so cool. Blah, blah, blah. You're going to love it. And then everyone's like, okay, great. And they expected fantastic play. When Artosis were like, everyone was in chat was like, so I'm like, oh, Frodan hyped this up. Artosis is going to like wreck everybody this episode. He's going to be like so great. And it turns out he made one of the most, iconic misplays of all time trying to execute a Sylvanas. And everyone PM'd me and said, what? And I won't say the rest of that phrase, was that. They said, you pretended like this was going to be something. All I saw was disaster. I'm like, this is not what you wanted? Are you not entertained?
Yeah.
That was my attitude of it. But the funny part was I hyped this up so much to the forums on Team Liquid, and they're more of a hardcore community, so they're just like, wow, that was really weak. We thought that was going to be much better than that. So if you ever see like the Artosis, like execute your own Sylvanas, or some people like make that reference.
Execute your own minions,
Yeah. It is referencing that.
It's an old one, but a good one.
That's why it's history. TJ.
And then he the way he looks at the camera after he enrages his Sylvanas and tries to execute it, he just slowly turns and is like,
shakes his head.
It was golden,
yes.
And it was a meme that hopefully will live on for a very long time to come, as well as just Artosis World Championship.
Yeah, so we joke about that a lot. Obviously, in any official capacity, Artosis is not an official Hearthstone World Champion. He is much as a world champion as Raynet is, apparently.
He was actually on the intro to HCT where we have the card flips with the World Champions. He was on the first version of that last year.
As a joke. That's so funny, man, that the artists and that the esports team was willing to let that happen.
Then they removed him this year when we had like enough World Champions, But it was pretty funny. And also, that game that he was playing was against Monk, I believe.
Who's now a co-op designer for StarCraft 2.
Yeah, he is. So pretty cool to,
It comes full circle. Monk and Artosis just went back to StarCraft.
Also, Reels was a part of Fight Night. He's now...
Yes, Chalky was also a part of Fight Night. Player who was part of that too. Puffin was also it, and they all joined
designers,
Blizzard.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy. That's Admirable was on Fight Night 2, the last episode where he got his casting career started.
That's right.
That's crazy.
So not only meme history, but just Hearthstone history.
My mind is. I'm just going through where are we now? Where were we back then 5 years ago? Where we are now?
Dan's hair was brown.
It still is. It just has a lot of stuff on top of it.
Yeah, I know. It was at times. But here's my spiel. We hope this episode of meme history, I forgot,
makes Hearthstone
helped to make Hearthstone a more inclusive place for all.
That does it for us today, TJ. We've had a great episode. It's been really fun. One of our probably the most fun I've had out of all the TalkStones. It's really great. We'll be seeing you next at Champs, right?
Yeah, in about a week. We'll be heading up there in a couple days to go to do some media stuff. But I'm really looking forward to it. I always it's a different feeling than playoffs because you know everything coming in. There's no like crazy variables. There's not like any of these crazy stories that happen from like this guy who was last in points came up and blah blah blah. But it's just really hype competition. Really intense.
It's high stakes Hearthstone.
Yeah.
That was really fun when you get to see like, okay, this card cost him X money or like helped him win like X money,
Yeah.
Like it's really cool.
And 4 more players going to the World Championship, which is always cool to kind of see unfold a full season in the books, so to speak. So
thank you everyone for listening. You can find more episodes of TalkStone on twitch.tv/playhearthstone every other week at 6 p.m. Pacific, and the audio version on SoundCloud. If you want more Hearthstone Esports news, analysis, and updates, check out playhearthstone.com/esports for all things Hearthstone. We'll see you next time in the tavern.